Picture this, the shores of North America piled high with lobsters. Not just a few here and there, but heaps of them, stretching as far as the eye can see. These crustaceans were so abundant that they were practically a nuisance. Not for fancy feasts, but considered trash. Yes, you heard that right. Lobsters were once seen as the garbage of the sea, not the gourmet delight we think of today. This wasn't a weird dream, it was the reality in the 1600s and 1700s. Back then, lobsters were so plentiful that they were often used as fertilizer for crops or as bait for fishing. Lobsters were so plentiful they were called cockroaches of the sea. This nickname wasn't just about their abundance, it also reflected their lowly status in society. They were a nuisance, washing up on beaches in droves. Imagine walking along the shore and having to wade through piles of these spiny creatures. Nobody wanted them. Not for their taste, not for their looks. They were just there. An unwanted byproduct of the ocean's bounty. These crustaceans were considered bottom feeders. They scuttled along the ocean floor, eating whatever they could find, which didn't exactly endear them to anyone. They were seen as food for the poor, or worse, a last resort. In fact, they were often fed to prisoners and indentured servants who grew so tired of them that they demanded not to be served lobster more than a few times a week. Nobody with any other option would eat lobster. It was considered a mark of desperation, a sign that you had no other choice. It was the ultimate sign of poverty. If you were eating lobster, it meant you were at the bottom of the social ladder. Imagine being so desperate you'd eat these spiny, strange creatures. The early colonists, who were already struggling to survive in a new world, saw lobsters as a last resort. Early colonists had an aversion to lobsters. They were seen as a symbol of hardship and struggle, something to be avoided if at all possible. They saw them as a symbol of hardship. Eating lobster was a reminder of their difficult circumstances and the harsh realities of their new life. Something they had to eat to survive, not something they chose. It was a matter of necessity, not preference. This negative perception was deeply ingrained in the culture. For generations, lobsters were seen as a lowly food, unfit for anyone but the most desperate. It would take a major shift to change it. But change was coming. Slowly but surely, the perception of lobsters began to evolve. The story of the lobster is a story of transformation. From trash food to treasure, the journey of the lobster is a fascinating one. How a trash food became a global delicacy. It's a tale of changing tastes, clever marketing, and the ever-evolving human palate. It's a tale of changing tastes, clever marketing, and the ever-evolving human palate. The lobster's rise to fame is a testament to how perceptions can shift dramatically over time. Stay tuned. It's a wild ride. The transformation of the lobster from a despised creature to a culinary delight is a story you won't want to miss. Think about prison food. It's often the subject of jokes and horror stories, known for being bland, unappetizing, and barely edible. It's not known for being good. In fact, it's usually the opposite. Now imagine lobster being served in prisons, not as a treat, but as regular food. It sounds absurd today, but there was a time when lobster was considered so lowly that it was fed to prisoners. That's how little people thought of lobster back then. It was so plentiful and cheap that it was deemed fit only for the lowest members of society. They were so abundant and undesirable that feeding them to prisoners was common practice. In fact, prisoners often complained about being served lobster too frequently. In Massachusetts, there was even a law against feeding servants lobster too often. This law was put in place to prevent the overuse of lobster as a cheap food source. Can you imagine that? A law to protect people from eating too much lobster. It seems almost laughable now, but back then, it was a serious concern. They were worried about their well-being. People believed that consuming too much lobster could lead to health problems. They thought eating too much lobster would make them sick. This belief was so widespread that it influenced laws and social practices. That's how low the crustacean status was. It was considered a food of last resort, something to be avoided if possible. This abundance led to some creative, albeit unappetizing uses for lobster. Farmers would grind them up and use them as fertilizer for their crops. They were ground up and used as fertilizer. This was a common practice as the nutrients in lobster were beneficial for the soil. They were even used as fishing bait. Lobsters were so plentiful that they were used to catch other, more desirable fish. Imagine that, using lobster to catch other fish. It's almost comical, but it shows just how lowly regarded lobsters were at the time. But this period of lobster abundance couldn't last forever. Overfishing and changes in the ecosystem began to reduce their numbers. Things were about to change. The perception of lobster was on the brink of a dramatic shift. The arrival of the railroad would be the first domino to fall in the lobster's journey from prison food to gourmet delicacy. With improved transportation, lobsters could be shipped to inland markets where they were seen as exotic and luxurious. The late 1800s saw the expansion of railroads across America. This technological advancement had a surprising side effect. It changed the fate of the lobster. Suddenly, these cockroaches of the sea could be transported inland. No longer confined to coastal areas, lobsters made their way to cities that had never seen them before. This was a game changer. People who had never encountered lobsters before were intrigued. Their strange appearance and exotic nature sparked curiosity. Restaurants, sensing an opportunity, began to include lobster on their menus. But there was a problem. Inland folks didn't share the coastal disdain for lobster. They weren't burdened by the association of lobster with poverty or hardship. They saw it as something new, something different. This clean slate allowed for a fresh perspective, and savvy restaurateurs capitalized on it. New York City, a melting pot of cultures and a hub for culinary trends, played a key role in the lobster's transformation. Clever marketing tactics were employed to elevate the crustacean's image. Restaurants, particularly those catering to the wealthy, began presenting lobster as an exclusive high-end dish. Menus featured elaborate preparations of lobster, often paired with expensive ingredients. The price of lobster began to climb as demand increased. What was once considered trash food was now a symbol of wealth and sophistication. The strategy worked. People, eager to showcase their status and experience the latest culinary trend, flocked to restaurants serving lobster. The association between lobster and poverty faded into obscurity, replaced by an aura of luxury and exclusivity. Section 5, From Sea to Sky, Lobster Takes Flight. The mid-20th century saw the rise of air travel, a transformative period that reshaped industries and lifestyles alike. What was once a luxury reserved for the elite became accessible to the masses. Air travel revolutionized the way people moved, making distant destinations reachable within hours instead of days. This had a profound impact on the lobster industry. No longer limited by slow and cumbersome ground transportation, live lobsters could be flown across the country and even around the world. This newfound speed and efficiency meant that lobsters could arrive at their destinations fresher than ever before, maintaining their quality and taste. This meant that people far from the coasts could now enjoy fresh lobster. Restaurants in landlocked cities began to feature lobster on their menus, and home cooks could experiment with this once rare ingredient. The demand for lobster continued to grow, further driving up prices. As more people developed a taste for this delicacy, the lobster industry expanded to meet the increasing demand, creating jobs and boosting local economies. The crustacean that was once fed to prisoners was now being served in first-class cabins and upscale restaurants around the globe. Lobster dinners became a symbol of luxury and sophistication, enjoyed by those who could afford the finer things in life. The rise of tourism also played a role in solidifying lobster's status as a luxury food. As people traveled to coastal areas for vacations, they sought out local specialties, and lobster quickly became a must-try dish. Coastal areas, once shunned for their association with lobster as a poverty food, were now desirable vacation destinations. The influx of tourists brought new business opportunities and revitalized these communities. Tourists were eager to sample the local delicacy, further boosting the lobster industry. The combination of air travel and tourism transformed lobster from a humble food into a global culinary icon, enjoyed by people from all walks of life. Section 6. The price we pay for status lobster today. Today, lobster is a global commodity. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry, with millions of pounds of lobster harvested each year. But this success comes at a price. The high demand for lobster has led to concerns about overfishing and the sustainability of the industry. The price of lobster has also skyrocketed. What was once a cheap and plentiful food source is now a delicacy that many can't afford. The irony is not lost on those who remember lobster's humble beginnings. Despite these challenges, lobster remains a sought-after food. It's a symbol of celebration, a special occasion meal. From its humble origins as cockroach of the sea to its current status as a luxury item, the lobster has undergone a remarkable transformation. Section 7. A sustainable future? The question of lobster consumption. The future of lobster is uncertain. As we grapple with the challenges of climate change and overfishing, the sustainability of the lobster industry is a growing concern. Conservation efforts are underway, but the delicate balance between meeting demand and protecting lobster populations remains a challenge. Consumers are becoming more aware of the environmental impact of their food choices. Some are choosing to reduce their lobster consumption or seek out sustainably sourced options. Others argue that responsible fishing practices can ensure the long-term viability of the industry. The debate over lobster consumption is complex. It involves economic, environmental, and ethical considerations. As we move forward, finding a balance between enjoying this delicacy and protecting our oceans will be crucial. Section 8. Beyond the claw lobster in culture and cuisine. Lobster has transcended its culinary roots to become a cultural icon. It's featured in literature, film, and art. It's a symbol of New England, of summer vacations, of special occasions. Its image adorns everything from restaurant signs to t-shirts. Culinary innovation continues to push the boundaries of lobster preparation, from traditional boiled lobster and lobster rolls to more experimental dishes like lobster mac and cheese and lobster pizza. The possibilities are endless. Lobster festivals and events celebrate the crustacean and its cultural significance. These gatherings bring people together to enjoy lobster in all its forms, fostering a sense of community and shared appreciation for this iconic food. Section 9: The Enduring Appeal, More Than Just a Meal. The story of the lobster is a testament to the ever-evolving nature of taste and the power of perception. It's a reminder that what we consider food is not static but rather a reflection of our history, culture, and values. Despite its humble beginnings, lobster has captured our imaginations and secured its place at the table, both literally and metaphorically. Whether we enjoy it for its delicate flavor, its luxurious reputation, or its cultural significance, the lobster continues to fascinate and intrigue us. So the next time you crack open a lobster claw, take a moment to appreciate the journey it took to get to your plate. It's a story of transformation, resilience, and the enduring human appetite for something special.